Hi everyone, Jothany Lintano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Black Thought and Salaam Remi EP, Streams of Thought, Volume 2. This is a brand new EP from Philly rapper and primo lyricist for the group The Roots, Black Thought, who dropped the first installment of Streams of Thought just this past summer. 5 tracks, wall-to-wall production from the legendary Ninth Wonder. Easily one of the better short-form hip-hop projects I've heard so far this year, something that left me wondering when the next installment was going to come around. And here it is. It's here now. Right here it is. Although Black Thought has seen fit to switch things up with a different producer, Salaam Remi, whose production credits include people like J. Cole and Eminem, Nas, also CeeLo and the Fugees, as well as the late Amy Winehouse. So just based on past efforts alone, Remi seems kind of like a perfect fit. A guy who's going to put his own spin on the usual mix of jazz and funk and soul that Black Thought sounds best over. And the instrumentals on this thing range from the sweet and groovy Soundtrack to Confusion to the very grim and dramatic FENTANYL. Then there's the very mystical and ominous How to Hold the CHOPPA, on top of which Black Thought delivers this kind of spaced out, very slow flow and delivery, a little more easygoing than usual. In fact, it sort of sounds like something off of a Ka album with how, subtle the approach is in a way. The opening lyrics on this track read, "Dark room with the cloak draped over the mic, colloquium light, the smoke from the opium pipe," which, yeah, the track sounds exactly like how those lyrics read. Long story short, the production on this thing is pretty solid. It's not mind-blowing, it's not cutting edge or anything, but it does present Black Thought in a good way, in a positive way. It just sort of fits with what you typically expect from him aesthetically. Meanwhile, Black Thought himself is as lyrical as ever and offers up a slight change of pace from the previous EP, in that, one, there are no other guest rappers featured on this thing. There are more songs on this record, 9 instead of the 5 off of the previous EP, though many of them are pretty short, just a minute and change, and for the most part, the tracks and instrumentals on this record segue or transition into one another, making a lot of the tracks on this thing link up for a pretty seamless 23-minute listen. As far as highlights on this EP goes, there is the chilling intro track FENTANYL, which is essentially about death and overdoses and the opioid crisis. It gets pretty grim as Black Thought lyrically references artists that have been taken from us due to overdoses over the past several years, basically lacing the measurable effects of this crisis with some pretty vivid poetry. In a way, the musical tone as well as Black Thought's flow on this track and many others on this EP reminds me of when Ghostface Killah linked up with Adrian Young and his band for like that 12 Reasons to Die record, and basically everything he's sort of done in that vein since. And while it's not the most refreshing sound or anything, it is done pretty well. The following Soundtrack to Confusion, I think, can be boiled down into a single line toward the beginning of the track that Black Thought spits. "I'm channeling uncertainty and using it to tell the story of winning in life and losing it as well." Yeah, I mean, if you think about those two lines, that really does kind of get to the core of what a lot of Black Thought is on about generally in his lyrics. Because as to be expected on this EP, Black Thought pretty much just has that beast flow, that nasty voice just dropping really slick talk on dark realities, with quite a few quotables and some pretty clever wordplay too. And that is pretty consistent throughout the entire EP. I mean, there are a few spots that do make me raise an eyebrow where I think Black Thought presents, like, in a way, some anti-vax bars. And there are a few spots where lyrically Black Thought does come off like he's just kind of spitting a hysterical, lyrical, spiritual miracle in a swimming pool, like on the intro to the song Long Liveth, or on the intro to the song Streets, where he says, "My cranium is vibranium, my brain is uranium and titanium." And even though I do like that Black Thought is cut from a different cloth, not only from his contemporaries, but from many of the other young rappers today, there are moments on here where his will to go against the grain feels more like mere contrarianism than it does some kind of natural drive. Thought is truly at his most compelling on this EP when he's speaking from personal experience or diving into some really deep and unlikely cultural references. "They far from rock solid, they soldiers terracotta. Of my philosophy, I'm the father, like Aristotle. I will put an end to your whole saga. You Harry Potters is soft. Your rhyme's EMO, mine's is non-GMO. I'm a vessel, a vehicle. Y'all don't see it though." Or on the song How to Hold the CHOPPA, where Thought says, "Gramps told my father they sold his papa for gold and copper, even though he was the strongest cropper. Now am I wrong to teach my son to properly hold a CHOPPA?" Which makes me want to take my hat off and just go, that's a lot. The closing track on this thing is pretty strong as well. The soulful vocals laced into the beat are inspiring and fantastic. Also, when a guest singer does manage to pop up on this EP, it does provide a nice bit of counterpoint and structure to these tracks, many of which come off just like loose freestyles. And even though I do like the fact that many of the tracks on this thing link up on this EP, it does sort of leave a lot of the songs on here sounding kind of samey. And, you know, that's the thing. While there is definitely an incredible amount of talent going into the instrumentals, going into Black Thought's flows and lyrics, it does feel a little one-dimensional, at least with the shorter Volume 1 of Streams of Thought. There were other guest rappers on there. It didn't really kind of draw on quite as long. It's unfortunate that no other voices sort of are presented on this EP. I mean, with Volume 1, it was so awesome hearing Black Thought on the same track as a new rapper who's also carrying that lyrical torch like Rhapsody. Hopefully, if there's another installment in this EP series, something can be done where maybe that's kind of a bit of a mini concept featuring people exactly like that. Because it did seem like that there is at least a little bit of a vibe or a direction or a very loose sound or theme kind of driving both of these EPs so far. And while I'm listing things off that I would have liked, some more cutting-edge production, I think, wouldn't have hurt. And I will say, I think the quality ratio of the bars on the first EP was maybe a little bit better than on this one too. Sometimes it does feel like Black Thought is just kind of throwing whatever he feels like out there that sounds vaguely cool or impressive, regardless of whether or not it has all that much substance to it. Not a bad EP though, pretty decent listen. I say keep them coming, and Volume 3, I'm looking forward to it. Feeling a decent 2 strong 7 on this thing. Transition, have you given this EP a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video for you to check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Black Thought, forever.